Most bags were junk, old shoes, broken lamps, somebody's sweaty gym clothes. Then I opened a taped-up plastic tote that was way too clean for a donation. Inside were phones. Not new, not smashed. Wiped, labeled with painter's tape. Mall, campus, Juwem. Each had an SD card taped to the back like an extra tooth. I do intake at a donation warehouse. People think it's quaint. It's not. It's a conveyor screaming all day, forklifts beeping, and me digging through strangers' crap with gloves that still let the stink through. You learn to stop reacting. A wedding dress with red stains, a shoebox of teeth, a dead hamster in a cage. Yeah, it all shows up. So when something actually makes my brain go quiet, I pay attention. That tote was quiet. Too clean. Lid sealed in perfect bands of tape. No dust on the handles like it came out of a trunk, not a closet. I cut the tape and lifted it, and the first thing I noticed was the weight. Not clothes weight. Dense. Hard. There were maybe 12 phones stacked like playing cards. Different models, all wiped, all boring black screens. The painter's tape labels looked fresh. Mall, campus, gym. A couple had numbers like someone kept account. And every phone had an SD card taped to the back. Not tucked in a case. Taped on the outside like a tag on a dog. I told myself it was some weird lost and found dump. Security company. Tech hoarder. Anything normal. Then curiosity did what it always does. I slid one card off a phone, popped it into the reader on the dusty office computer we used to check resale stuff, and clicked. Folders by date. Hundreds. Inside, shaky videos shot from pockets and low angles. A woman's calves and leggings ahead of the camera. A ponytail swinging. A purse strap. The filmer always stayed close enough that you could hear him breathe. Not heavy from running. Controlled. Like he was savoring it. Sometimes the frame dipped and you'd catch the edge of his hand, knuckles white, gripping the phone in his pocket like he might crush it. It wasn't porn. That's what messed me up. It was stalking footage. Parking garages, stairwells, mall aisles, campus paths at night. You'd see them stop when she stopped. You'd see them drift when she drifted. A few clips ended with the woman getting into a car and the camera just lingering at the taillights, breathing louder like the guy filming hated that it was over. Then I hit a folder that wasn't video. Screenshots, group chats, little map pins dropped like bait. She just came out of Planet Fitness. Back entrance by the dumpsters. Blue hoodie alone. Guys reacting with laughing emojis like it was a fucking game night. One screenshot showed a list titled Routes with timestamps and store names. Another had blurry photos of women from behind with captions like regular and easy. My hands went numb. I yanked the card out and stared at the tote like it could bite. The warehouse noise kept going, belt clanking, people yelling over forklifts, like I hadn't just cracked open somebody's hunting bag. I didn't want to be the hero. I just wanted it out of my hands and into someone official's hands. So I carried the tote to my supervisor's office. He was at his desk with his vape and a stack of forms, already pissed at the world. I set the tote down and told him what I found, fast, blunt, no cute words. He didn't look shocked. He looked irritated, like I dragged a spill into his clean little corner. He didn't ask to see the SD card. He didn't say, call the cops. He said, box it back up and don't make it my problem. I felt my face get hot. I said I already saw enough to know it's evidence. And I'm calling 911. He stood up and came around the desk like a damn reflex. When I pulled my phone out, he reached for it. Not a polite reach. A grab. Fingers digging in. He hissed that I was trying to get everyone fired. I jerked back and he grabbed again. For a second, we were tugging on my phone like children. He leaned in close and I could smell stale coffee and nicotine. I said loud, get the fuck off me. Out in the warehouse, a coworker looked up, then looked away like she hadn't seen anything. That made me sicker than his hand on my wrist. I didn't argue anymore. I just turned and moved. I walked fast toward the front office where the camera monitors are, because if he was going to do something stupid, I wanted it caught. My heart thudded so hard it shook my vision. I called 911 the second I got in there, and I didn't shut up. I started describing the toad out loud, so it'd be on recording. I said phones labeled mall, campus, GYM, SD cards taped to backs, footage of women being followed, screenshots of a chat trading locations. I said my supervisor's name. I said the address. I said he tried to take my phone. While I talked, my supervisor walked to the warehouse door and hit the lock button. I heard it thunk. Then I heard forklifts start up behind me, engines revving like somebody planned to crush the evidence and me with it. The beeps came closer than the squeal of tires on concrete. I stayed on the line and kept talking louder. I said, he locked the door. I said, he's moving forklifts. I said, if this call drops, it's because he took my phone or killed the power. He hovered in the office doorway for a second, watching me talk like I was a problem he wanted solved. Then he walked away, and on the monitor I saw him head for the bay door. The big roll-up started lifting. Cold air poured in. Someone moved a pallet jack out of the way. Smooth, efficient, like they'd rehearsed getting things out fast. I grabbed my own phone, hit video, and filmed the camera screen while still on 911. I narrated it like a lunatic. This is happening right now. My voice was shaking. I didn't care. I just needed something that wasn't my word against his. The cops arrived fast because I didn't stop talking. Two of them came in, eyes scanning, hands hovering. I held the tote out like it weighed a ton. They opened it, and my stomach dropped again. Half the phones were gone. The SD card were gone. The tape labels were still there, empty strips stuck to bare plastic backs like someone yanked the teeth out and left the gums. I kept saying, no, there were more. There were cards. I saw them. I saw the folders. My supervisor stepped in with his calm, annoyed voice and called it electronics recycling. He acted confused and talked like I was wasting everyone's time. We walked to the back. The bay door was open. The alley was empty. The floor around the desk looked wiped down. No scraps of tape. Nothing. The forklift sat parked neat, keys missing. My coworker wouldn't look at me at all. The cops took the tote anyway. They took my statement. One asked why I opened the card. I said because I'm stupid and because it was taped to the outside like a fucking invitation. They asked if my supervisor touched me. I showed them my wrist. My supervisor rolled his eyes like I bruised myself for attention. Next morning, a detective called and asked if I had a copy of anything. I told him the only copy I had was the memory of a man breathing behind women in parking garages. The SD cards were gone before the cops even got there. My video of the monitor was mostly my own shaking hands and a bay door lifting. He went quiet and said he'd seen this before. Evidence walks when too many people have keys. Corporate showed up that afternoon, not to help, to control damage. They asked why I accessed the card, whether I stole electronics, whether I had issues with my supervisor. When I said he grabbed me, they wrote it down like it was a complaint about a rude cashier, not a grown man trying to shut my mouth. They sent me home for safety and told me not to talk about it. That night, an unknown number texted me a photo of our loading bay from the alley. No option, just the picture. I blocked it. Another number sent the same photo 10 minutes later. I went back because rent doesn't care. My coworkers kept their heads down. My supervisor kept me away from electronics like I'd done something dirty. He didn't threaten me. He just watched calm, like he knew how small my world was compared to his. I started keeping my car key between my fingers on the walk-in. I stopped scrolling on my phone in public. Every tote that came in after that, I sliced the tape slow and listened like the plastic might whisper my name again. 2 days later, someone donated a new tote. Same tape. This time the label said my first name. The address pinged as leave at door, but the note said, hand it to me, call on arrival. It was dumping rain so hard my wipers couldn't keep up, like the sky was trying to scrub the city clean. The loading dock was basically a shallow pool, water running off the ramp in sheets. I parked half crooked, stepped out, and the cold rain punched straight through my hoodie. I took the bag upstairs anyway, balancing it like it mattered, because the app timer doesn't give shit if you're soaked. The lobby looked dry, but it wasn't. People tracked in water, and the marble was slick and streaked. There was a wet dog smell mixed with cheap disinfectant. Security desk was empty, just a busted sign-in tablet with water spots on the screen like somebody wiped it with a dirty rag. The elevator took forever, and when it finally opened, it let me out on a quiet floor that smelled like carpet shampoo and stale weed. The carpet squished in places like a pipe leak got fixed by someone who just threw fans at it. Somewhere in the wall, I heard steady dripping, slow and patient, like a faucet you can't reach. The unit number on the app didn't exist on the doors. I walked the hall twice, pissed, thinking the customer fat-fingered it. Numbers jumped like the building was hiding missing units. I checked corners, door frames, the little metal plaques. Nothing. I messaged through the app. No answer. I called on arrival like the notes said, and all I got was ringing and that hallway drip and the air vent wheeze. I hung up and stared at the end of the hall where the light was dimmer, like the bulbs were dying one by one. A door at the end cracked open. Not a normal open, just a slice. A guy leaned out, phone in hand, and waved like I was late. No, who is it? No caution, no checking my screen, just a confident beckon. His hair looked damp, like he'd been standing near steam or a running shower. He kept his shoulder angled so I couldn't get a clean line past him into the apartment, and he stood in a way that also blocked the peephole on the door across the hall. That peephole suddenly felt important, like an eye that wasn't allowed to see. I asked for the last 4 digits. He didn't answer. He just stepped back into the dark and held the door wider, like he wanted the hallway air to stop touching him. My phone buzzed. Customer is calling. Same number. Same guy. I answered and heard breathing close, and then his voice matching his face like he didn't even bother pretending he wasn't right there. He wanted me inside, not closer. Inside. The way he stood made it obvious why. He kept shifting so the hallway cameras wouldn't get a clean look at his face, and he kept the door half shielding him from whatever was mounted near the elevator. He didn't want a clean angle. He wanted me off camera. I said I'd leave it outside. He smiled like I was being difficult on purpose and said he'd report missing. Then he reached for the bag. Fussed. Confident. Like the bag was the hook and I was supposed to come with it. I jerked it back and turned for the elevator. The elevator button wouldn't light. I hit it again. Nothing. No click, no glow, no movement. Rainwater dripped from my sleeves onto the carpet, darkening it in little circles, and I had this stupid, sharp thought that I was leaving a trail. He'd already hit the service lockout or called it away. I heard another door open behind me. Soft, slow, like a second person didn't need to rush. That was the moment my brain stopped trying to make excuses. This wasn't a weird customer. This was a setup. I ran for the stairwell. The door opened and the smell hit. Bleach and metal. It wasn't cleaning day bleach. It was fresh and aggressive, like someone tried to erase something 5 minutes ago. The concrete steps were wet in patches, not like rain got in, more like someone dumped a bucket and didn't bother drying it. Water pooled in the corners of the landings, reflecting the flickering stairwell light. A strip of duct tape hung from the handrail like someone prepped it, already torn, ready to wrap. The tape had little beads of water on it, glittering like sweat. Footsteps came fast behind me, and I didn't look back. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my shoes slipping once on a wet tread, my heart trying to climb out of my throat. I heard the stairwell door bang, and then that wet rubber squeak of someone running on damp concrete. A second set of sounds came from above, another door, another step like somebody was cutting me off. My hands felt numb. I kept the bag in one fist like a dumb shield, and my keys in the other like I could stab my way out of this if it came down to it. At the next landing, I grabbed the rail, and my palm slid a little because it was slick, water and bleach together. That nasty combo that makes your nose sting and your eyes water. I looked down for half a second and saw smears on the wall like something got dragged and then wiped. Not a clear mark, just enough to make my stomach flip. The dripping I'd heard upstairs was louder down here, like the building had a leak running through its bones. Every drop sounded like a countdown. I hit a lower floor and shoved the door open hard. The hallway outside was brighter and lived in. You could tell instantly, kids' shoes lined up, a wet umbrella leaning in a corner, a doormat that actually looked used. A real family's door had a welcome mat and a Ring camera blinking blue. That blue light felt like a lifeboat. I planted myself under it and pounded the door with my fist until my knuckles burned. I didn't bother being polite. I just kept hitting and yelling for someone to open up. I heard a man shout from inside, pissed and confused, then heavy steps. The chain rattled and the door cracked open. I didn't try to push in. I didn't want to look like the threat on someone else's camera. I kept my body angled so the Ring could see my face, not just my back, and I pointed toward the stairwell door like it was a loaded gun. I got the words out fast. Someone tried to lure me inside. Elevator's dead. Someone's in the stairwell. The guy inside swore louder and opened the door wider, just enough to stand in it. Big shoulders, angry stance, the kind of presence that makes creeps rethink their math. The stairwell door behind me stayed shut. Too shut, like whoever was there pressed against it and decided the camera wasn't worth it. I listened for footsteps. Nothing. Just dripping and the distant hiss of pipes. The smell of bleach still rode the air when the door opened a little, like it had followed me out of that stairwell. Building security finally showed up after what felt like forever, acting irritated like I'd pulled them away from a snack. They checked the stairwell, came back shrugging. They said they didn't see anyone. I told them about the duct tape hanging off the rail. They said maintenance uses tape for projects. I told them the steps were wet like someone poured water and bleach. They said it's been raining and maybe someone tracked it in. I wanted to scream. Rain doesn't make bleach smell like a punch. I show them my app. The order's still marked delivered. I hadn't hit delivered. I didn't even hand it over. It was like the system decided the story for me. Security asked what unit. I told them a unit didn't exist. They acted like I was too stupid to read numbers. They walked me toward the elevator like it was nothing, like the problem was over because they were there now. I refused to get in. I took the stairs down with them behind me, and I kept watching the landings where the water pooled, expecting a hand to shoot out from a dark corner. Nothing happened, which didn't make me feel better. It made me feel like I got spared because the camera caught me, not because it wasn't real. I left the building shaking, rain hitting my face again, cold and stupid and ordinary compared to that stairwell. I sat in my car and stared at my wet hands on the wheel, smelling that bleach metal combo like it was stuck in my sinuses. I reported it through support right away, typed safety issue until my thumbs cramped. The app gave me auto responses that sounded like a robot apologizing for the weather. Next day, my account got flagged for fraud, like I'd staged the whole thing for a free sandwich. Like I'd sprinted down wet stairs for fun. I tried to appeal, wrote it all out, told them to pull call logs, told them to check the building camera, told them I could get the Ring footage if they needed it. I got the same copy-paste garbage about policy and we've reviewed your case. I went back into my history and stared at the receipt like it was going to blink and change. It didn't. The whole thing sat there neat and clean, like it belonged in some customer service spreadsheet. Not in my body. The customer name on the ticket was Test. The house was empty like usual, alarm disarmed by the owner remotely, keys in the lockbox, cameras everywhere, but pointed at art instead of doors. I hauled my buckets in, tested water, started siphoning. It was quiet enough to hear the tanks, pump hum, and my own breathing. I do aquarium service for people who want living things but don't want to touch them. They like saying the tank guy is coming like I'm a cable tech. I liked it because it's simple. Show up, fix the mess, leave. This place always felt staged. Clean counters, no mail, no shoes, nothing that says a person actually lives here. I set my kit down, checked salinity and temp, swapped a filter pad, and let the hose pull water like it always does. Halfway through, something fell off, and it pissed me off because I couldn't name it. The inside of the glass usually fogs a little when you're pulling warmer water and the room's cool. This time it didn't. The air sat still. The HVAC vent by the tank wasn't blowing. The room felt held shut, like someone screwed the lid down on a jar. I walked over and put my hand to the vent grate. Nothing. No cold push, no faint rattle. I checked the thermostat, set to cool, showing it was running, but the air in that room stayed dead. I crouched and looked up into the vent like that would explain anything. Then I stood and noticed the utility closet door was cracked and there was a smear on the frame, fresh dirt dragged by a finger. Vet frit, not dust, not old. I stared at it, then did the dumb confirmation touch. It came off on my glove. I looked down at my knees and boots like maybe I did it. Clean. I hadn't been outside. Somebody else put that there. I headed toward the closet to check the breaker panel, still trying to stay annoyed instead of scared, and I didn't even reach the handle before I heard a scrape from behind the built-in cabinetry under the tank. Not pipe knock, not settling. It sounded like fabric pulled across wood, slow and careful. I stopped so hard the siphon hose twitched in my hand. I held my breath. Silence. Then again, scrape. Then a tiny click, sharp and clean, like a phone camera shutter. My stomach dropped. That click is too specific. You don't confuse it with anything. Heat rushed up my neck and my mouth went dry. I stared at the cabinet. Seems like something would leak out. The pump kept humming. The fish kept drifting like they didn't notice a damn thing. I backed into the kitchen and grabbed the metal algae scraper. Solid handle, heavy edge, because it was the only thing within reach that wasn't a sponge or a bottle. I pulled up the security tablet the owner leaves on the counter. The camera grid popped up, all crisp angles of framed paintings, the staircase, the wine room, and the tank like it's a museum exhibit. Nothing pointed at the actual entry points. No front door view, no pantry view, no hallway that leads to the crawl space. I toggled through feeds, zoomed into reflections, checked corners for a shadow that didn't belong. Nothing. Of course, nothing. Whoever was inside knew what the cameras didn't see. I tried calling the owner because my brain wanted an adult to take over. Straight to voicemail. I texted him anyway. Something weird called me and got nothing back. That made me angrier, which was good for about 2 seconds because anger feels like control. Then I looked at the dirt smear again and remembered the shutter click and the control went away. I walked toward the pantry door that leads to the crawl space access, and my skin started crawling before I even touched it. The door was cracked open a finger's width. I know I shut it when I came in because it swings easy and I always push it close with my knee so I don't snag the hose. Now it sat open like someone eased it back slow. I shoved it wider and the smell hit me hard, sweat, piss, and a sharp chemical sting like bug spray or solvent. My eyes watered. I flashed my phone light inside and the beam hit darkness that looked thick. Something shifted low and close. I saw pale knuckles on the floorboards, just hands planted flat, fingers spread, like the rest of the body didn't need to show itself to make the point. I didn't see a face. I didn't see shoes. I just saw those hands and the tiniest movement like breathing. I slammed the pantry door so hard the hinges snapped. I grabbed a chair from the dining table and jammed it under the knob. My hand shook like I'd chugged 3 energy drinks. The chair kept slipping on the tile until I kicked it into place and wedged the legs. I stood there with the scraper up, listening for the next sound, trying not to think about how thin that door was. It came as tiny taps from the other side. Not a shove, not a kick. Little controlled taps that made the chair vibrate. Testing pressure. Testing me. Top, top, top. Then it changed. 2 quick ones, a long pause, then one. Like he was playing with the idea of a rhythm and waiting for me to respond. I pulled my phone out and my thumb kept sliding because my hand wouldn't stop shaking. I dialed 911 while it rang. The tapping paused like he was listening to me breathe. I forced words out anyway. Address, I'm a contractor, someone's in the crawl space, I saw hands. The dispatcher told me to stay on the line and get somewhere safe. There isn't safe in an open plan house with glass walls and cameras aimed at oil paintings. I moved behind the kitchen island because it was the only chunk of stone that felt like cover. I hated that thought, cover, like this was a fight and not me stuck in a rich guy's kitchen with a scraper. The tapping started again, slower now, spaced out like he was counting seconds. My legs wanted to run, and my brain kept screaming that running means turning your back. Then I heard another scrape behind the cabinetry, deeper, like he shifted positions inside the wall cavity. That's when the worst idea landed. There could be another way around me. Another person. Another camera. That earlier shutter click burned in my ears. He took a picture of me. For what? To keep it. To send it. To prove he'd been here and I'd been stupid enough to work while he watched. Sirens finally grew on the street. The tapping stopped the second the sound hit the house. I didn't feel relief. I felt dread that he'd slip out somewhere I couldn't see. 2 cops came in quick, scanning, hands ready. I pointed at the pantry like my arm was a compass. I dumped everything on them. The smell, the knuckles, the click, the dirt smear, the vent being shut off, the scraping behind the tank. One of them gave me that looked like I was exaggerating, and I snapped back, loud enough that my voice echoed off the tile. I told them I'm not here for drama. I'm here to clean a tank, and somebody's in that fucking house. They moved the chair, opened the pantry, hit it with flashlights. The smell hit them, and both of them tightened up, so at least I wasn't imagining that. They checked the short hall, found a crawlspace hatch, found it latched. One of them called it secure, like that meant the story was over. They opened it anyway. Flashlights swept joists, insulation, pipes. Nothing. They crawled in a little, came back out dusty, and that same look returned like I'd wasted their time. The older one asked if I'd been alone the whole time, slow and careful, like he was deciding if I was crazy or lying. I argued with him right there. I told him settling doesn't make a shutter sound, and a vent doesn't shut itself off, and nobody pisses solvent into a crawl space for fun. They did a lap through the house anyway. Locks, windows, garage, upstairs rooms, nothing. The security cameras showed nothing. They told me to call again if anything changes, and they left, and the front door clicked shut behind them like a sentence. As soon as they stepped out, the house felt even quieter, like it was waiting for me to be alone again. The pump hum sounded louder, uglier. I shut down my siphon without finishing everything, because fuck that. I rinsed my tools fast, spilled some water, didn't care. I kept expecting that tiny shutter click again. I kept waiting for another scrape under the tank. I just wanted out. Before I left, I looked back at the pantry like an idiot, like staring would stop it. The chair wasn't where I wedged it. It sat a few inches off, angled like someone nudged it from the inside and let it settle back. I didn't go near the door to check. I just stood there and listened, and the house answered with that steady pump hum and nothing else. I grabbed my buckets with both hands so I'd stop shaking, and I walked out. I locked the door behind me and walked fast to my van. My hand still shook. I reached for my pocket to hit the remote, and my stomach clenched. My work keys weren't there. Not the van key. The key ring with all my client tags and lockbox codes. Gone. I dug through my pockets, checked my bag, checked the porch steps like I dropped them. Nothing. Then I opened the driver door and saw it. A single wet fish scale sat on my driver's seat like a receipt.